You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. I'm your host, Jennings Smith. I want to talk to you today about winning. Winning begets winning. Winning is momentum. And conversely, losing can also beget losing. Back in 2018, I was at the Clemson, Alabama National Championship game in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was the first time Clemson had been there since 1982, I think, or 81. And when Alabama came out on the field, within the first few plays, it was clear that this was a whole nother realm. They were hitting harder, they were bigger, they were faster, they were stronger, and Clemson hung with them, but eventually the Alabama dominance came through and put the Tigers away. Now, I will sneak in there. The next year, Clemson was able to win the national championship and beat Alabama because I'm a Clemson fan. But the point is, winning begets winning. And if you want to get on the biggest stages of the world, at least for college football, and win and dominate there, like Alabama has done for so long, you've got to win small. You know, you've got to win in the weight room. You've got to win in the practice field. You've got to win against the B League. And you've got to win your, division title. And you've got to work your way up there, because winning begets winning, and you've got to win in the small things. Because what if you aren't winning, right? What if you're not a championship caliber team? Or what if you're looking at the results of your life, the money you're making, the relationships you have, your health, your finances, your own mental acuity, strength, stability, and you are not where you want to be? You're not winning on the level that you think you're capable of or that you want to win at. How can you start winning today? And I'm going to go back to that football analogy. How can you start bench pressing, doing the wind sprints, doing the calisthenics, throwing the ball, running the drills? How can you get to where when you get put in that position, you're going to win there? Because you've been winning all along. You've been winning up to that point. You've been working, persisting, and getting the job done. So what can I do to win today? Today is all we have. The past is in the past. We can learn from it. We can't change it. The future is yet to be. We can dream about it. We can goal set. But to really make any effect or impact on what happens in the future, we have to utilize today. It's that simple. I want you to think about that. There is nothing else than this moment, this day, this hour that you have right now with what you're doing or going to do today. And it affects everything. It affects your entire future. And so if you're not winning, and some of these lofty goals you have, or you see other people doing things you want to do, maybe they're closing big deals, they're making the money, they're selling their company, they're scaling their company, they're buying apartment complexes, whatever your goals are, you're seeing these people doing it, and it just seems so far away. How are they able to achieve that? How are they able to do that? And how can I get started? How can I make progress towards that? Well, it starts with looking at what you can control. What can you control, and how can you start winning in that arena? We think about all the entrepreneurs out there. There's so many guys that are winning at a high level, and girls winning at a high level, and they all talk about, almost without fail, a morning routine. How many times have you heard that a morning routine is so critical, so important? And why do you think that is? I mean, every single one of them are like, well, I wake up at a early hour, I'm reading, I'm meditating, I'm working out, I'm journaling, I'm writing down my goals, I'm doing my affirmations, whatever they are. And I don't know that the routine even totally matters exactly what you do, but I promise you their morning routine is not waking up, hitting the snooze button, pulling out their phone and surfing Instagram for 45 minutes. Like, that's not their morning routine. And the reason I believe that everybody talks about this and everybody does it is because they understand that building the culture of winning starts with the micro wins. It starts with those habits. So, can you control what time you wake up? Yeah, absolutely. Can you control if you get up and take a shower and do your morning routine and work out whatever it is that you're going to do? Absolutely. And can you start that day off with a win? You get out of bed at 5 a.m. when your alarm goes off and you don't hit the snooze button, that's a win. You read a book, that improves your mind and improves what you're working on, that's a win. You journal and clarify your thoughts and work through some things that maybe you're stressed about or worried about. You get some thought auditing done. You get your mind right. That's a win. You eat right. That's a win. So we're going to talk through some of these things. Let's start with my health. So when I was 20 years old, maybe 20 years old, I started using smokeless tobacco, Skoal, wintergreen long cut, switched to Copenhagen wintergreen long cut, and used it pretty religiously and regularly for a long time. I was in construction and it was just part of my life, right? Have a coffee, have a dip, eat lunch, have a dip, stressed out, have a dip, framing houses, have a dip. And I was just always had a dip bottle and spit can by my side. And it's a gross habit and it's not really serving me. And it's also very, very addicting. And then there was times where I would turn to cigarettes as well when I was, out having a few beers. You don't want to have a dip, but you'll have a cigarette. And I'm looking at myself and I remember being in the car driving and looking and seeing somebody smoking a cigarette in their car and thinking, wow, they're not disciplined. They're addicted to that cigarette and that's not good. And then thinking, why are you judging them? You're just as addicted to the dip. It's just the same. You have the same chains wrapped around you as they do. And you have the same lack of self-discipline as they do. And so it really was getting to me. And I'll be honest, I kind of felt a bit like a loser in that arena because I knew that I was addicted to something. I knew that I had something in my life that had power over me, had control over me. When I didn't have it, it was a problem. If I ran out of it, it was a problem. If I was around family or at functions where it wasn't appropriate to be dipping, which was pretty much all the time it's not appropriate to be dipping, it would affect me. When I wouldn't have it, I would be irritable with my children, with my wife. And also, as I'm having kids, I'm realizing they're looking at me. Now they're going to think that that's cool, that that's acceptable. Sons want to be just like their dad a lot of times when they're young anyways. And I'm setting my boys up to struggle, right? If they start this addictive chemical, nicotine, it's going to be a problem in their life. And that's not what I want. And it made me feel like a loser. It really did. Same thing with drinking too much alcohol. I would never consider myself an alcoholic, not struggled with something that this is something that I want to have every day, but definitely have had too much to drink and I've had hangovers and the same sort of feeling, wow, I drank too much. I didn't keep it in check. I don't feel well the next day. I'm not hitting at 100%. What kind of example am I setting? And is it really the ideal of where I want to go? And not having those wins really does start to affect you because you realize, I'm not able to do what I know to be right in this arena. And so there's probably other arenas that I'm not doing what I should be. Continuing on that health thing, working out on and off, right? Start, stop. I was at the point where I couldn't run around the block without getting winded, or I would work out consistently for a few weeks and then drop off. We've all been there. You join the gym January 1st, and by January 21st, you're back at home on the couch eating potato chips. Same thing with food. Really when I took stock of what I was eating and sweets I was eating and junk food I was eating and chips, every night I was getting into the habit of eating chips, and I'm not really a sweets guy, but I'm more I love Doritos. Just love them. I can eat a whole bag of Doritos. And that's not great. And the same thing with my finances, not completely paying attention to where my finances were going and not being disciplined with knowing where my money was being spent, knowing what I was spending it on, diligently saving, just knowing my accounts and being slack in that arena. And so these are all things that we can control. We can control our health. We can control our habits. We can control how we handle our finances. We can control our relationships to some degree as far as the amount of effort that we put into them. We can't control what the other side is always going to do, but we can control our level of giving to that relationship, our level of focus and attention. And we can control our persistence. Do we give up at the first obstacle? Do we immediately stop when we hit resistance, or do we persist? Do we persist and do we win? Now, you may be thinking, okay, Jennings, I don't care about this. I want to win big. I want to make millions of dollars. I want to quit my job. I want to start a business. I want to pursue my goals and dreams. I'm not really too concerned about eating kale salads and working out. What does that have to do with what I am doing? And here's the crux of it. Here's the really unique thing that I didn't realize. Maybe you know this, but I did not realize this at the time. But was when I started to focus small and I started to focus on those things that I could easily change and easily control, those other pieces started to fall into place. What do I mean? Well, I laid out the goal that I want to buy an apartment complex. Well, to buy an apartment complex, there is a lot of things that are uncontrollable variables. You can't just make a good deal fall into your lap. You can't just make the loan happen. You can't just make the down payment appear from the investors. Like, there's some things and variables, pretty much most of it is outside of your control. They're lagging indicators that fall behind the leading indicators. And so in our training program in the deal room, we teach people these are the leading indicators. These are the things that you work on day in, day out, and they will happen. That's sort of the same thing, is like to have a successful life and all the things that you want, the body, the vacations, the time, the money, the relationships, the freedom. Well, that's the lagging indicators. That's the stuff that shows up when you do the work, when you do the leading indicators. The leading indicators are the things that you can control. You can control them today. You can control them tomorrow morning. You can create a plan today. You can be implementing it this afternoon or tomorrow morning, right? And those things compound and build on themselves. And this was what I really didn't realize. So I'm kind of floating along in my life and I get connected to some people that are higher level people, and they start challenging me on how I'm dressing, how I'm talking, how I'm acting, the books I'm reading, and they start pushing self-development. This was a company that I got involved with. It's called Alair Homes. It was a custom home construction franchise. And they were talking about these books, and I started reading these books, and then everybody in there was dressing a little bit nicer. And I wore jeans and a t-shirt every day because I was in the field most of the time, just working my butt off. And these guys are they know that, hey, if I'm going to sell a multi-million-dollar custom home or renovation, I've got to have my truck clean. I've got to have my truck vacuumed. I've got to be wearing decent clothes. I've got to be wearing my uniform, like clean polo, nice pants, good shoes. I've got to have my project managers in place. Like I've got to have all these things set up so that I can be ready to win when the opportunity presents itself. And so this was a kind of a catalyst for me to at least get started in changing a few things and realizing, hey, it starts small. It starts with getting a haircut, dressing appropriately, dressing a little bit nicer, waking up a little bit earlier, reading books, investing in myself, journaling. And as I did this, those things started to build. And my company got better. I was able to eventually exit and sell my company and move into multifamily. And 2019 was a crazy, crazy linchpin year for me. In 2019, I went from zero. I had 2 rental homes and then maybe a trailer, 2 or 3 trailers, mobile homes. And by the end of 2019, I had over 220 units. I had bought a 12 unit, a 19 unit, a 63 unit, a 42 unit, and something else, one other big deal. But I had over 200 units in a year. Very, very fast trajectory growth because I had been working on those small wins. I had been building that momentum. And in 2019, I got really, really committed to being disciplined. How? Well, I decided once and for all I was going to kick tobacco. I started talking about tobacco in the beginning and dip, and I decided this is something that is not serving me. And every time I have a dip or a cigarette or whatever, I feel like a loser. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel disciplined. I don't feel strong. I don't feel like a winner. And that is affecting me more than I know. And I've got to get a grip on this. And I've got to get it out of my life. And I also thought one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have cancer. And it's going to be too late. And I'm going to be super sorry to my wife and my kids. Now they got cancer and it's going to be too late. And what am I doing? I had to get a grip on this. And so I recognized that alcohol and tobacco went hand in hand. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to quit drinking and quit tobacco. That way I can guarantee that I don't fall off the wagon and I have the self-discipline to stop. And so in doing that, it was hard for the first couple weeks, getting off of the nicotine withdrawals. But really after that, it wasn't bad. And the crazy thing is I saw how much alcohol had been affecting my life in little ways. Like I said, I wasn't an alcoholic or anything, but drinking on the weekends, parties, functions, weddings, etc. And when you take a step back from that stuff, you recognize how often you're doing it, or I was doing it. And then you just don't quite feel as good the next day, and you stay up a little bit later, and you maybe are making foolish decisions or saying things that you shouldn't say, and on and on and on. And that slight edge really compounded in 2019, and it just poured gasoline on me because I stepped up the discipline. And as I stepped up the discipline, it was a keystone habit. And that year, you know what? I'm going to get serious about working out. Like I'm not accountable to myself to just go to the gym. So I'm going to hire a trainer. I'm going to meet with him 3 times a week. I'm going to pay him and I'm going to do it. And guess what? It worked. It did it. And consistently, I'm still doing it 3 times a week. I'm still going to this guy. It's been 2.5 years now. I'm in the best shape of my life because of that decision I made in 2019, as well as eating healthier. I started working with him, working out, and after a few months, I wasn't really getting as much progress as I wanted. And he was telling me it's your diet. And so then that win compounded to a bigger win of, let me get my diet on track. Let me start eating healthier. Let me start cutting out some of the sweets and the chips and on the carbs and all that stuff. Okay. And so that win compounded there. And then it started to translate into my relationships, and my relationships started to improve. And I joined another mastermind to focus on my family, my kids, my wife. I have 4 children, and that's a huge part of my life. If you listen to episode 1, a fat bank account and a house full of strangers, that's my number 1 priority, is keeping those relationships aligned. And then my finances started to straighten up. Like I said, 2019, we closed a lot of deals. In 2020, we closed even more. At this point now, in 2022, we've got 1,000 apartment units and 500 self-storage units. And this started all in 2019 by changing my habits. I started to invest in myself further. I joined the DM family, a mastermind that I'm in, and became more persistent, became mentally stronger, became mentally tougher. And in 2020, I decided that it was okay to start drinking again, right? It wasn't something that I had to do for the rest of my life. I'm never, ever going to have a drink. But in 2022, I've decided that I'm going to go back on it, right? I've got some things that I feel like I want to be ready for. The economy's changing, right? Rates are going up. We've got a lot of uncertainty with Russia and China, and where's real estate heading, and where are interest rates heading, and the Fed. And I want to be sharp. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to hit some more discipline. I'm going to give up alcohol. And I was smoking some cigars this year, which is honestly dangerous for me. Real talk. Like, I should not be dabbling with tobacco because it enslaved me for so long. And so I kind of was getting into smoking a little too many cigars. And so I just decided, hey, I'm done with the cigars and the tobacco for the rest of 2022. Like, done with the alcohol for 2022. Going to get really, really tight, really, really focused, and really, really sharp, because I know how much those little habits matter. And you may be thinking, Jennings, like, I don't need to get up at 5 a.m. I don't need, and you don't. Whatever time you decide to get up, you get up. But you know when something gets laid on your heart or comes into your mind where you're like, I need to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to journal. I want to work out. I want to get healthier. I want to make more relationships. I want to be feeling good and be getting wins and building momentum. And when you start to listen to those things and you start to actually do them, the momentum that it builds and the wins that they build on top of each other, it doesn't make sense, but I know that it happens, right? It may not logically be tied A to B, and if you do this, then this will happen, but I've seen it in my life. I've seen it, I've done it, and how you feel about yourself really, really matters, because it has to be true, right? You can BS the world. You can BS your friends, your colleagues. You can say one thing and mean another, say one thing and you feel a different way, but you can't fool yourself. You can't BS yourself. And how you feel, the vibration that you're feeling matters. If you feel good, if you feel like a winner, if you feel disciplined, you feel like you can conquer the world, like you can do anything. Those are the people that do. Those are the people that do conquer the world. Those are the people that do achieve and accomplish. And the people that don't are the ones that don't feel confident in what they're doing. They don't feel like a winner. And the reason that they don't is because maybe they aren't winning. And so how can we do this? Because we really need to change how we feel about ourselves. That is the most critical juncture, is understanding, uncovering, and coming to terms with how you feel about yourself. And I know that there's a lot of self-judgment and self-care talk out there of how you need to love yourself and this and that. And I believe there's definitely room for loving yourself, self-care, forgiving yourself, moving on when you make a mistake. But at the same time, there's a lot of that self-loathing that's self-inflicted, right? If you go out there and you just blow up and scream at your kids, well, yeah, you're going to feel bad about yourself. And the way to feel better is not to have this huge powwow and forgive yourself and, mentally gymnastics your way out of it. It's to stop blowing up at your kids. It's to understand what is the core root of this thing and to change it. If you're feeling guilty and like a loser for smoking cigarettes and drinking too much and being hungover, well, then stop. Stop. That's the solution, not to forgive yourself for it. Yeah, you need to forgive yourself, but you need to change it if you want to feel differently. And if you want to not be tricking yourself and you really want to feel like you're making progress and you're worthy of being someone that you're proud of, then you've got to implement these disciplined habits in yourself, because it really feels good when you start hitting at 100%. Around 90%. Nobody hits at 100%. But when you start, if I say I'm going to get up at 5, I get up at 5. If I say I'm going to read, I read. If I say I'm going to journal, if I say I'm going to record a podcast this week, I can trust myself. I keep promises to myself. I do what I say that I'm going to do because I know it's important. I made up my mind. I made a decision. It's already done. It's going to happen. You look at the greats in business, you look at the greats in sports, they keep promises to themselves. They respect themselves. It's self-respect, right? If you say you're going to work out and then you don't trust yourself. I'm just telling myself something else that I said I would do and I'm not doing it again. Well, how can you do that? How can you change that? I believe the only way to change that is to change the action and to keep the promise. Right? I could give you a whole bunch of mental crap that you could try this and do this and say this, but really and truly, What works is doing the work. What works is keeping the promises. Discipline equals freedom. Discipline equals happiness. You think about the dream of the sipping the margaritas on the beach in Mexico, and it's fun, right? And I think that's okay to do that. And I think that I would enjoy that for a few days, maybe even a week. But after a while, that is not freedom. That is not fun. That is not joy. That is not purpose. That is not progress. Seeking that is never going to bring fulfillment. Seeking that is not going to bring an unlocked life. The discipline is what brings the freedom. The discipline is what brings the joy. The discipline is what brings the goals and the progress and the growth, right? We look at Navy SEALs. Why do we admire these Navy SEALs? Why do we admire these athletes? Because they're disciplined. These guys, I mean, the athletes, yes, they're talented, but they've also married that with discipline. The SEALs, I don't know that they have to be that talented. They're just extremely disciplined. And they're able to do what they say and apply that training and do really incredible, really, really hard things. And so in my life, I want to be seeking more discipline, right? I want to be seeking more discipline, whether that's, and it doesn't have to be push-ups and shooting a million free throws, but discipline with my relationships with my kids. Like, I want to be disciplined in my words, in my emotions, how I think towards them, what I say. When they make me mad or they leave their toys out, like, am I yelling at them? Am I short with them? Am I curt? Or am I kind? Am I loving? Am I correcting them? Same thing with my wife. It's like, I want to be disciplined in every day we're going to do, we're going to sit down for 20, 30 minutes and just talk, right? We're going to let the kids play in the yard and we're going to talk. We're going to focus on, hey, how was your day? How are you doing? I'm going to focus on asking her better questions, having a deeper connection with her, right? I'm focusing on that relationship and I'm disciplined about it. And I have a habit there. I take her out on a date on the weekends, on Friday, Saturday. She helps me line it up, but we make that a priority, a discipline that we do that. I want to be disciplined in my finances. In 2019, going back to that linchpin habit, because this stuff builds. It all builds on itself. I was going through a spreadsheet and I was tracking all the income I was making. I was tracking what I was spending. I was tracking, every month, what was the extrapolation out to, and knowing the state of my finances, being more consistently disciplined about that. I want to be disciplined with my body. I look in the mirror now and I like the way that I look. I'm in the best shape of my life and I'm almost 40 years old. I never looked like this. Even when I was 20, I was just always was pretty skinny. Then when I had kids, I got kind of fat. And so it's really fulfilling to look at myself in the mirror and think, okay, wow, you were disciplined. You worked out, you ate right, and you get to be healthy. You can move a couch without throwing your back out. You can pick up your kid and throw him in the pool, and you don't have to worry about being sore the next day. You can live a mobile life. And as I move into my 50s and 60s and 70s, if I keep making those deposits in the bank account with my body, keeping it in good shape, then that's going to serve me well in the future as well. And I know that. And I'm happy about that. And I'm proud of that, because when we like ourselves, when we're someone that we can be proud of, we're someone that keeps promises to ourselves, that's how we win. That's how we build that momentum. Alabama has a culture of winning. When you walk on to that field as a freshman and you join that culture, there's a culture of winning there. There's a culture of winning at Clemson as well. And those small wins and that just immersion in that this is the way it is, it leads to those incredible victories down the road. Small victories lead to big victories. Small wins lead to big wins. Winning is momentum. Losing is momentum too. Small losses beget bigger losses, right? Sleeping in, watching too much TV, not paying attention to your children, not paying attention to your wife, not paying attention to your relationships, your finances, not paying attention to your health, eating junk, smoking, drinking too much, whatever you're doing, those lack of disciplines, they lead to bigger losses down the road. They compound. If you've ever read The Slight Edge, It's a phenomenal book. And there comes a point where that trajectory can either take off so hard vertically, which is the way you want it to go, that you can't stop it, but it can also fall off downward where there's no coming back, right? You've fallen off the cliff. Those habits are so ingrained and they're so far gone that there really is no chance, unless you have something that's just like a crisis, like you get a big heart attack or your wife leaves you or you go bankrupt, and then you're like, oh, I got to change something. And you're able to trace it back to all these little tiny habits that you had that led you to this path. So all we have is today, guys. I want you to focus on one habit. You don't have to focus on them all. Because if you focus on getting one right, I promise you it will lead into more. And it will become clear and it will become easier. So what do you want to focus on? You want to focus on dominating your day, creating a morning routine, sticking with it? Do you want to focus on getting your health right? I've got a guy, he's one of my mentees in the Deal Room, which is my mentoring program. And this dude, he started working out. He started hitting the treadmill. He started getting in shape. He started going to the gym, I think, every day. And I saw him and I saw and thought he's going to make it. He's going to be closing deals shortly. Things are going to start breaking free for him. He's going to make progress because he's starting to win small. Sure enough, boom. A few months later, he's closing his first $20 million deal. Now he just closed another $16 million deal in Florida. He's got a couple other in the pipeline and just killing it now. And you look at it, it's like, oh, well, how did he do that? I know, because I see those small habits and those small wins stacking up over time. And I know it's just a matter of time before he's going to break through that trajectory. So that's my word for the day, guys. I appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed the podcast, share it. Let your friends know. Shoot them a text. Shoot me a 5-star review on iTunes or podcast, whatever. And I appreciate it. It really means a lot. And it's also building that habit of being a giver. So many years I wasn't a giver. I wasn't thinking about how can I contribute, creator versus consumer. If you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to that one. But if you want to be a creator of a review or a creator of sharing my show to your friends or people that you think would enjoy it, it means a lot to me. So I'll catch you next week. And remember, unlock your life. Peace.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.